Okay, I'm so excited. Hello, I'm Susan Rubin, and I'm a member of the Secular Humanist Jewish Circle, and we are co-sponsoring the afternoon part of Dave Silverman's talk. So we are just really excited to be here, and so grateful to Free Thought Arizona for their interest in collaborating with us. It's the first also for our two organizations to work together. And it's been a great, seamless kind of experience, and one of many, I think, more to come, such as going forward. And I think Dave will talk about that also, about the need for collaboration. It was part of his talk this morning, which was wonderful, and I know some of you were there this morning and very much enjoyed that. So the Secular Humanist Jewish Circle, I don't know how many of you are familiar with our organization, but we're here really to meet the affiliative needs of cultural, humanist, and secular Jews, and their non-Jewish family members and partners in the Jewish community. We're affiliated with the Society for Humanistic Judaism, and we are non-theistic. We have a strong commitment to developing positive experiences related to our Jewish identity. We're humanistic. Of course, we share secular and humanistic thinking, and this was a natural for us to be able to collaborate together. So when I heard that Dave was coming here and that we would be able to participate together, I talked to him, and he said, you know, I think this is going to be a really good afternoon. We'll have a lot of good dialogue, and I'm going to challenge your group, but I hope there's going to be a lot of questions. He told me that he's going to wear his Kevlar shirt, so not to worry about that. And just to provide us with some stimulating thinking and an interesting afternoon, I think. So I'm going to introduce Dave. For some of you who were here this morning, this might be a repetition of what you heard this morning. But Dave was born, no, you don't need to know how old he is, I guess. But he's the president of the, do you want them to know?
No, I'm very recent, very young.
Very young, 1966. He's one of those generation, I guess. And he's the president of the American Atheists, which is a nonprofit organization that supports the rights of atheists and the removal of expressions of religion in public when possible and interpretable as government endorsements. So that's what the organization does. He is from Marblehead, Massachusetts, and he says that he began, a lot of this is from his website, so you can find it there. He began publicly challenging religion in high school and often states in interviews that he became an atheist at the age of 6. Okay. I'd like to hear more about that. I'm just thinking about, my grandchildren aren't 6 years old yet, but I'm going to be curious to see what their experiences are at 6. How verbal, I suppose, begin to start thinking that you're right. Okay, that he was never really in the closet about his disbelief, but he was forced to have a bar mitzvah. He calls it the turning point of his life when he decided never to lie about his atheism again, because he had to get up on stage and told people that he knew he believed in God, in which he guessed he didn't. If he decided at 6 he wasn't going to do that. So 17 years later, his father admitted to him that he was also an atheist. So there you go. He received a bachelor's degree in computer science from Brandeis University and a marketing MBA from Penn State. Silverman is also an inventor with 74 patents and has authored several articles, including a cover story for Inventor's Digest. Very versatile guy. He's been married for nearly 2 decades to publisher Hildy Silverman, who is an active worshiper in Judaism, and the couple has 1 teenage daughter. Silverman has worked with the American Atheist Organization since 1996, and has held a variety of roles, including New Jersey State Director, Communications Director, and Vice President. He was elected president of the American Atheists in 2010. Silverman has made a lot of media appearances, but has been especially visible since becoming the president. An atheist awareness billboard campaign launched in the winter of 2010 sparked controversy and increased media exposure for the organization. As a result of this campaign, Silverman has appeared on a number of television shows and in late 2010, most notably The O'Reilly Factor. That should be interesting too. It was under Silverman's direction that the American Atheist Group sought to block the preservation of a cross-beam section of the World Trade Center skeleton that resembled a cross. Silverman opined, "The World Trade Center cross has become a Christian icon. It has been blessed by so-called holy men and presented as a reminder that their God, who couldn't be bothered to stop the terrorists or prevent 3,000 people from being killed in his name, cared only enough to bestow upon us some rubble that resembles a cross." So I guess you know what you're in for this afternoon, okay? Silverman was the creator and executive president of the Reason Rally, which took place in the National Mall in Washington, D.C., which was actually the largest atheist event in world history. So, I also want to remind everybody that after his talk today, there'll be time for questions and answers. There's also some brochures about our Secular Humanist Jewish Circle organization. We're always looking and interested in new members. And we'll be in the back of the room after the talk is over to talk to you about any questions you might have. However, now I really want to turn the floor over to Dave, who I think is going to give us a really interesting and thought-provoking discussion and afternoon experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everybody, for coming and or staying for this presentation. So, just to give you a little bit of a background on me, I have been an active supporter of the concept of secular Judaism for my whole life, really, until I started to write my book. And that was really the kicker. As I was writing the book, which is coming out in March, it's called I, Atheist, I was writing about Jewish atheism in a positive sense. I was writing in the book about why Jewish atheism makes sense. And I failed. I failed over and over and over again to justify Judaism being something more than religion. And every time I tried to make a distinction between, well, Judaism is different from Islam because it sounded like apologetics. It sounded like my Christian counterparts. It sounded like it's a secular cross. It didn't make sense. So it was this growth that I've had over the past just couple of years while I've been writing the book, that I've really come to look at Judaism from a different perspective. I stood up here earlier today and I talked about religious indoctrination, or religious indoctrination. And I said how we are all victims of that indoctrination. And I started to wonder how that indoctrination was affecting my view of Judaism, and how I was using apologetic tactics to defend something that, in the end, I didn't think was true. And that's how I came to the conclusion that Judaism is doing exactly what other religions are doing, lying about how important it is in order to preserve itself. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So when Susan called me and said, I want you to talk to a bunch of secular Jews, I took this as a pretty good opportunity, not quite a sign, but an opportunity to bring this out and to bring out this piece. It's very interesting to have gone through this presentation and to create this presentation. This is the first time I'm presenting this. I apologize if it's a little bit rough, but I've talked to a bunch of people who I really trust, the most important of which is my wife. And I'll tell you just a little bit about my wife. Susan mentioned that she is a believer. For those of you who weren't here this morning, and I'll speak a little bit more familiar with it, she is a former Baal Tshuva. So she was raised in a non-religious household. She was sent to a Lubavitcher high school. She came out Orthodox. She was liberal because she showed her elbows. And we met at Brandeis because she was one of my early debating opponents. And the reason that we have such a great relationship is that even with that whole debate going on, even with that fervent debate that was going back and forth, we never devolved into anything uncivil, and that's why we love each other. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about where I am, and I know that this is going to strike at you, okay, because it struck at me. It struck at me when I came to these conclusions. And I believe that this is all consistent because it works with the concept that, again, religion lies in order to better itself, and religion indoctrinates people into bettering themselves. So this is our different perspective. Instead of me telling a Christian that they've been indoctrinated, I stand here as one of you, a person who was raised by Jews. But I'm going to tell you that I'm an atheist, not a Jew. And the same goes for every one of you. That's my point. I know you're going to disagree. I know. I'm going to get this out. Please don't heckle me. I know you're going to disagree because you've been indoctrinated to disagree, fervently so. And you're going to see it and you're going to feel it just like I felt it when I went through this. The title of this talk is I'm an Atheist and so are you. And here we go. My proposition is that Jewish atheism is indeed an oxymoron because Judaism is only a religion and the rest is a scam. Yes. Grunts and hears. I love it already. We're already having a discussion. I'm going to refute what Judaism supposedly also is. I'm going to draw parallelisms to other religions trying to do the same thing, but you're all dismissing it. I'm going to talk about how religion lies, how religion has lied to you and why. We're going to go through the usual defenses, the insults, the implications, the self-hating Jew. I'm waiting for that to come out. I've already been called a Holocaust denier. I've been called a Holocaust denier. So I'll just go into this for a second. So there was a Holocaust memorial, right, on public land. A Holocaust memorial on public land with a big Jewish star on the top of it. Clearly, on public land, it's a Jewish star. It's a Jewish memorial. It shouldn't be on public land. If it's a Jewish star, it's obviously an endorsement of religion. You should take it down. You should fix it. You should adjust it. You should include the other people who were killed in the Holocaust. That makes me a Holocaust denier. So what we have to do when we go through this is not shout at insults, not grab at those insults, because that's one of the reflexes that we do. Oh, he disagrees, he's a self-hating Jew. Oh, he disagrees, he's a Holocaust denier. Oh, he supports them, not us. It's out-group, not in-group. That's what we have to get past. And of course, I'll talk about the Hitler factor because we can't talk about secular Judaism without mentioning the Hitler factor. And then I'll go into some summaries and takeaways. First, I'm going to get into the proposition that Jewish atheism is a Bubbe-Meiser. I remember my Bubby, I miss her so much, but she was a religious Jew because that's the only kind, of course. My proposition is that Judaism is a religion and nothing else. Now, a lot of people talk about it being a race and a culture and an ethnicity and a nationality. And it's not any of those things, and I'm going to get into that. The idea that Judaism is more is a lie against you, by their children, and they seek, and it's there to benefit those who seek money and power. Yep, just like everyone else. Religions lie for money and power. Judaism is no different. The reason people have so much trouble describing what else Judaism is because it's not any of those things. The reason people say, no, Judaism is a culture because, well, let me define it. Well, no, Judaism is a race because, well, let me define it. None of it makes perfect sense because none of it's true. If it doesn't fit the definition, it isn't part of the thing. And we have to get past that. Nothing else makes sense. Jewish atheism is negative. It's not neutral. It's negative. It convinces atheists like you to call yourselves Jews. And that's a very bad thing because it perpetuates the stereotype of the non-existent atheist with the lies that you are not an atheist. Is Judaism a race? Yes or no? Good, you're right. A definition, a local geographic or global definition, population distinguished as a more or less distinct group of genetically transmitted physical characteristics. So many people have told me that Judaism is a race. It's in the blood. You can't leave. Once you're a Jew, you're always a Jew. Permanent. But there are no genetically transmitted physical characteristics common to all those who Judaism calls Jews. Those who Judaism calls Jews. Judaism calls me a Jew. So that's the distinction that I'm making. But if you look at the Ethiopian, the Ashkenazim, the Sephardim, there is nothing common among those groups except the Torah, which is religious and religious only. That's the only thing that unites those groups of Jews. The only thing that makes the Ethiopian Jew, that the Ethiopian Jews and the Ashkenazics have, the only thing we have in common, we got nothing genetic, nothing at all. The only thing we have in common is the Torah, which is strictly religious. Sorry, we're not a race. Dilution is ignored for Jews only. I love this part. Dilution is ignored for Jews only. If a black person and a white person have a baby, they have a mixed race person. If a Jew, a Jewish mother, has a baby with a non-Jewish father, supposedly, what do you get? A Jewish baby. That's not a race, right? You just can't say that doesn't happen. You just can't say it's a race, but all the rules for races, they don't count. And then there's matrilineal descent. This was actually one of the key things for me, because matrilineal descent as a race. Matrilineal descent says, of course, if your mother was a Jew, you're a Jew. If your mother was a Jew, you're a Jew. Who decided that? Who made that decision? God didn't. See, if there's a section of Jews, section of people that Judaism calls Jews, I'm just going to use that phrase. There's a section of people that Judaism calls Jews that are only called Jews by Judaism because somewhere along the line, someone's mother was a Jew and not a father. And there's another section of people in the population that Judaism doesn't call Jews because somewhere along the line, their father was Jewish, but not the mother. And that is a decision. The whole concept of matrilineal descent comes from people who made, no questions, comes from people who made a decision. And if your race, if your identity is dependent on whether or not that decision was made differently, it can't be a race. If everybody else bred with everybody else, and it was all the same breeding and all the same circumstances, but somewhere along the line, way before this was registered, somebody said, let's go matrilineal, well, let's say we'll go patrilineal descent. If somebody had made that decision, there'd be a whole lot of people today that would be Jewish, that are not. There'd be a whole lot of people today that would not be Jewish, that currently are, all based off that one completely arbitrary decision. Not a race. That's not what a race is. Is Judaism a nationality? Nope. A nationality is the status of belonging to a particular nation by origin or birth or naturalization. A lot of people bring up Israel when we talk about Judaism being a nationality. We all know the difference between being Jewish and being Israeli, right? Israel is a country that we don't come from. I'm not an Israeli citizen. We're not Israeli people. The Jews existed long before Israel, and the Jews come from diverse nations and continents. Israel is a country. Israel has a state religion. England has a state religion. They have the Anglican Church. Israel has Judaism. It's a state religion. All Anglicans are not British. All Jews are not Israelis. And if we are all descendants of the people who first founded Judaism, I mean, if you want to go back that far, if you want to say, okay, the legend is true, and we all descended from people back in Judea, in the Middle East, then you have to call Christians Romans, and you have to call Buddhists Chinese, and both Buddhism and Christianity are nationalities as well. That doesn't hold water. We're not a nationality. Jews are not a nationality. So, is it a culture? Is Judaism a culture? No. I don't think so. This person, this woman here is about to die at the hands of Islam, at the hands of people in a culture. That's a culture, right? That's a culture that's influenced by the religion. Christopher Hitchens, religion poisons everything. Religion has poisoned this culture into killing this poor defenseless woman by stoning her to death, as it is written in the Old Testament. The definition of a culture is a totality of socially transmitted behavioral patterns, arts, beliefs, institutions, and other products of human work and thought considered as an expression of a particular period, class, community, or population. But guess what? We don't have it in common. All of the above can be abandoned. You can leave any culture you want. Amish are raised in a culture and they can leave. And then they're not Amish anymore. But if I leave Jewish culture, am I still Jewish? According to Judaism, I am. Well, that doesn't make very much sense, does it? It doesn't make sense. Jewish law does not allow that. So it's not a culture. There's no cultural characteristics, none, that all Jews have in common. Subsets have characteristics in common. Ashkenazim have lots of characteristics in common because why? We Ashkenazim all come from a particular area, and we have locality-based traditions that we have brought with us as we have been pushed together. That doesn't make it a culture, because if it was a culture, if Judaism was a culture, it would cross all Jews. It would have everybody in common. But that's not the case. What is happening is Ashkenazim are saying our culture is Jewish culture. But it's not. The best you can say is that it's Ashkenazic culture. That's the best you can say. Bagels and matzo brie are no more Jewish than chow mein is Buddhist or falafel is Muslim. There's no such thing as Jewish food. That doesn't make any sense. It's local. It's location-based. It's Ashkenazic. It's how we are descended. It's from the location, not from the religion, not across all religions. Ethiopian Jews don't know what a bagel with smear is. But they're still Jews. So it's not a culture. What is it? And here's the next question. Is Islam a culture? Is Mormonism a culture? Are the Amish a culture? Are the Branch Davidians a culture? No. They are religions. And they vary from place to place because culture is independent of religion. What do religions do? Let's talk about this from a broader perspective. Take it out. They start at a place or event, real or fictional. Christianity spread from Judea after Jesus was supposedly crucified. Mormonism started in New York, where the angel Moroni contacted Joseph Smith. They take credit where credit isn't due. This is what religion loves to do, make itself more important by taking credit for stuff that it doesn't do. Islam takes credit for the technological advances made by Muslims, even though those advances had nothing to do with the religion itself. Christianity takes credit for inspiring art, but they just paid for the art. That's why there's so much Christian art and so much Christian music. They paid for it, but they take credit for it. They take credit for creating it. They take credit for inspiring it. What they did is they bought it. So this is how religion takes credit for things that it does not do, And also, religions defend themselves, it's kind of a redundant, but defends themselves by making them more important than they really are. They get the government to endorse them. They tell you that you need them. You need religion. You need us to be moral. You need us to have a status. Oh, your entire culture comes from us. Your entire culture comes from us. You are Jews before your people. It's like I was saying earlier today. You are a Jew. You need this religion to have a culture, a society, a social status. You need religion to have morals. And of course, if you're a part of it, you get that good old-fashioned in-group favoritism, as we all know that religions do with each other. Members make it integral to stay in. And we see that a lot if you look at the Orthodox community, where Orthodox Jews only deal with Orthodox Jews, and they are very, very insular. They use guilt and shunning and penalties to thwart leaving the religion. This really should have been first on the list. But Mormons shun en masse those who leave, and Islam recommends death for infidels, and of course, Christianity promises eternal hell. And we all know where that goes. So that's what religions do. Well, let's look at Judaism. It starts at a place or event, real or fictional. The Garden of Eden, Exodus, Abraham, and our homeland of Israel, which of course is just marketing, right? Israel wants you to come and spend money, so they say that they're your homeland, so that you'll come and spend money. It's surely you can see the marketing behind that. It takes credit where none is due. Jewish food and Jewish dance is actually location or religion specific, not culture based. Judaism gives no community. The community makes itself and calls itself Jewish because its members have been told that they should. You have been told that you were Jewish by birth. You have been told that you're Jews and you don't get to not be Jews. You don't have a choice. Members of the tribe, I hate that, they get special treatment from other Jews. Some Jews will only do business with other Jews, and of course the Orthodox isolation is something that I already mentioned. So Judaism takes credit for things that it doesn't do, and then it uses guilt and shunning for penalties for leaving. Imagine leaving Judaism. How many of you have been told that if you leave Judaism, you're hurting your family? I have. Leaving hurts your family, hurts your parents. Why would you do this to your family? Why would you do this to me, your mother, your father? Oh, you're leaving the show, you're leaving. Hitler would want you to abandon Judaism. There's the guilt right there. You know, in atheism, we have something called Gooden's Law that says the first time that somebody picks Hitler as an arguing point, they lose the argument. Folks, Hitler's dead, and Hitler wouldn't care if you abandoned Judaism, because as far as Hitler is concerned, I'm wrong, we're all Jews, and we all deserve to die. Okay? Hitler actually did think that Judaism was a race, and that everybody deserved to die. But guess what? That's not the reason to support a lie. Hitler would want it. Is kind of bullshit. It's kind of bullshit. And of course, the self-hating Jew insult. Lots of self-hating Jew insults. Notice, I'm still a Jew. Notice, even the self-hating Jews are still Jews. If it's a culture, you can leave a culture. And it's not a nationality. And we all know it's not a race. So how does that work? How does that work? If you can't leave, what exactly is it? Where is that line drawn? It doesn't make sense. If you can't leave, but you're not a race, I mean, a black person can't become unblack, but a Jew can't become non-Jewish, even if he totally dismisses Judaism. That doesn't make sense, folks. That's not real. That's not a thing. Jewish clothing. Oh, this is cute. So this is from Rod Delaney. You won't be able to read it, so I'll read. Oh, you can read it. That's nice. One thing that I'm curious about with Hasidic Jews is the outfits that they wear are hyper-specific for a very old religion. Why were they wearing suits from 1931 Budapest? Was God going through Cosmic Vogue magazine when people made clothes out of dirt and fur? And God was like, no, I don't care for that. And then later textiles were invented, and he's like, okay, we're getting there. And then in 1930s Hungary, freeze. I love that. That's the suit you will wear forever. It's the main tenet of our faith. And everyone was like, oh man, it's going to be hot. And God's like, oh, I don't care, put it on. Because it's not Jewish clothing. It's Russian clothing. We have to see that. It's Russian clothing. Just like it's Russian or whatever food, a dance, and all that stuff. It's all location specific, and that's why it's not uniform across all people who call themselves Jews. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Why you should not call yourself Jewish? Because you're not Jews. You're atheists. And calling yourself Jewish is a lie. It's easier, but it's still a lie. A lot of people who I know who call themselves Jews, who are atheists, hide their atheism with the word Jew. They use it because saying you're Jewish is a lot easier than saying you're an atheist. It's a lot easier. It's also a lie. Calling yourself a Jew implies theism. Now, a bunch of you are saying, but you can be a non-theistic Jew, but you can be a non-theistic Jew. But to the rest of the world, when you say, I'm a Jew, you're calling yourself a theist. There's no doubt about that. You are giving the exact opposite meaning. If somebody says, are you a Jew? And you say yes, you are telling them that you actually believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's what you're saying. Secular Jew is not understood. People don't know what that means. They don't get it because there's nothing to get, because it's so weak in the first place, perhaps. But if you call yourself a secular Jew, the word secular will get forgotten, and you'll be thought of as a theist. And what you'll be doing is you're promoting the idea that there are more Jews in this country than there are, and there are fewer atheists in this country than there are. And you'll have a great opportunity to teach. You'll have a great opportunity to talk to somebody and say, I'm an atheist, and put a face to the word and be a nice example of what an atheist is. But instead, you say, I'm a Jew. You give the wrong impression. You walk away. It's easy. It's safe. And it's untrue. You are hurting yourself and the truth by hiding your identity. It's fine to stick to the culture in which you were raised. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're lying if you say you're Jewish. You're not telling the truth. And that hurts you because it doesn't allow the people in your lives to come to you and say, I'm an atheist too. That's important. And you're hurting society as well, because you're propagating the myth that there are fewer atheists like you and that there are more Jews like your parents or your ancestors. More respect for believers of ancient silly gods and less respect for reasonable atheists like us. That's the point. So when I come out here and I say, call yourself an atheist, call yourself an atheist, call yourself an atheist, I'm not just talking to religious people. I'm actually talking to the Jews and the others who call themselves something other than atheist. My good friend, Bonnie Cousins, the executive director of the Society for Humanistic Judaism. I love this woman. She's great. She reminds me of my Bubby. When she's about this tall, and she's you ask her if she believes in God, she says, no. No. You believe in anything supernatural? She says, no. So you're an atheist then? No, I'm a Jew. That's the wrong answer. It makes her sound like a hypocrite because people don't know what a secular Jew is. I'm not saying she is a hypocrite. She's not. I'm saying she's wrong to call herself a Jew, and just like all of you are to call yourself a Jew. Takeaways. It's a shorter presentation than I expected, but that's okay. Takeaways. The reason Judaism doesn't fit any definitions of race or ethnicity or culture cleanly is because they're not true. Is because they're not correct. Judaism is just another religion trying to make itself out to be more than it is, just like other religions do. I am not suggesting you leave your congregation. I am suggesting that you recognize that you are not Jews. You are atheists who descended from Jews, from that specific area, who share a culture from that specific area, which includes Hebrew school and other indoctrination. And that indoctrination says what? You're a Jew first, as a person that you can't escape. Judaism is permanent. That's a lie. I am stating that it is wrong to call yourself Jewish if you're not Jewish. This is just Judaism taking credit for things it doesn't deserve and using guilt to perpetuate the myth. So many of you are afraid, I shouldn't speak for you, but so many Jewish atheists that I've met are afraid to take the step because of the guilt that they'll feel, because they feel that it's some sort of a betrayal, that it's some sort of, that perpetuating the myth that Judaism is a race or a culture or something bigger than the religion is some sort of obligation that they have because they were born into it. That Judaism as a religion is something worth preserving more so than other religions. Judaism as a religion is no more worth preserving than Islam or Christianity. We have to go there, folks. It's a primitive, barbaric religion, and we have to go there. It's no better than Islam or Christianity. It's not. The Ten Commandments are wholly barbaric. And the penalties for being you, the penalties for breaking, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt have no other gods before me, is death by stoning. That's primitive and barbaric, and you're the target. There's no reason to preserve that, and there's certainly no reason for you to feel an obligation to preserve that. Who would teach you to preserve it, though? Who would teach you that there was an obligation to preserve it? The religion, the Hebrew school, the Jewish Community Center. Israel is not our country. That is marketing. That is marketing, and it has to be recognized as such. I would love to put together a country and say, hey, everybody who's like me, guess what? You get free citizenship. All you have to do is come here and spend lots of money and move here, and you get free citizenship. It's like a used car salesman, only kind of less logical, because they're just using this religion to tell you as secular people that they are your country. But there's no reason for you to think that. They're not your country. America is your country, or at least it's mine. And before that, it's Poland and England. Before that, Russia. Got to go way far back to get it to the point of legend before you start talking about the Middle East for me. But Judaism will tell us, and Israel will tell us, that they are our country and that we must defend them. Now, I will say that I do defend America's use of Israel. I do say that it's very important for America to have an ally in that region of the country. That's a good thing. I don't care if it's Jewish. I don't care if it's secular. I don't even care if it's Christian. I care that it's an ally. You are not hurting your family, disgracing your heritage, or helping the Nazis by telling the truth. You are not. You are not enabling another Holocaust by telling the truth. How many of you were told that you were enabling a Holocaust if you denied Judaism? Oh, I was. It came to me heavy. If you deny it, you're helping the bad guys. You're helping the Nazis. It's going to happen again. We must never forget. No, we must never forget. But that does not mean we have to lie or pretend that we're something that we're not. Honesty is the mitzvah here. Honesty to oneself and others is the mitzvah here. The honest truth is, Judaism is a religion. And no matter how else you try and extrapolate it, all those other definitions don't work. They have to have special definitions, which means they're not definitions, which means they don't fit. It's not a culture, it's not a race, it's not a heritage, it's not a nothing. The only thing that all Jews have in common, folks, the only thing that all Jews have in common is the Torah. We don't even have the Talmud in common. We just have the Old Testament in common. They just have the Old Testament in common. And that makes Judaism a religion and nothing more. Thank you.
If you have questions, come.
Sorry, gotta go, bye.
So, if you have a question, not a long-winded speech, hopefully, but if you have a question, it'll be good. Okay?
Warn me. Yeah, please, folks, I know this is going to be passionate. I know that I'm touching serious nerves here. I came with the intention of touching serious nerves. And don't interrupt me, please. But please keep your questions, keep them to questions, not speeches, because there's going to be a lot of people who, and we'll find out what happens. So please ask questions, not speeches.
There are people, thank you. There are people who hate Jews.
Yes.
They're generally called anti-Semites. That's a misnomer, as we know. When you're with someone who hates Jews and makes an anti-Semitic comment, they have a language that doesn't agree with what you say at all.
Right.
And when they say something that I consider anti-Semitic, even though I've been an agnostic all of my life, they're talking about me. And for me to dodge that by not saying I'm a Jew, seems to me it's cowardice.
Okay, that's an excellent question. So you're letting yourself be defined by people who are so ignorant that they think we're a race. That's wrong.
There's a lot of them.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are. And I'm not saying it's good. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't say, hey, my parents were Jews. But the fact is, they're wrong. You're absolutely right. They do speak a different language, a language we've all heard, a language that we're all a race. The language, I'll say it, the language of Hitler, that we're all a race and that we all deserve to be whatever. So we have this, it's such a great question that you just asked, because we want to say, hey, I'm a Jew. We got to get right in their face. Oh, you want to say it to me? Say it to my face. But it's still a lie, because they're wrong. It's like if they called you black. You're not. You're not a Jew if you're an atheist. Now, they can be wrong, and it's up to us to tell them that they're wrong. It's up to us to stare down any anti-Semites or any bigots on anything we can find. And they'll come after us because they're ignorant, and it's up to us to educate them.
Who determines the definition of a word? Is it not the majority?
Who determines the definition of the word? Is that not the majority?
In other words, if someone calls me a Jew, and the majority of people in the nation I live in, the world that I exist in, would agree that I'm a Jew, am I not a Jew by definition?
That's an excellent question. Let me turn it around on you. If you don't believe in God, you don't think any gods exist, but I tell you that you're not but you say you're not an atheist, are you an atheist?
I'm an agnostic.
But if you don't believe in a God, if you don't believe that any gods exist, if you fit the definition of atheist, but you call yourself not an atheist, are you an atheist?
I'm not an atheist.
I'm not asking you specifically. A person. A person. If a person doesn't believe in a deity, but insists they're not an atheist, are they atheists? The answer is yes. They're still an atheist. Their definition is wrong. And that's why I'm saying that the Jewish definition is wrong. People cannot vote to decide whether or not Judaism is a race. You can't do that. Words have meanings. Is it determined by opinion? To some degree it is, but to a real degree it's determined by the dictionary and the English language. And yes, the dictionary and the English language changes over time due to people using it. But words have definitions. And if somebody says to you that you're something that you're not, and if a whole bunch of people agree to it, you're still not. So I would say no. And you know what? This is not a scientific argument. This is not a scientific argument. This is not me coming up here and disproving God. This is all soft stuff. This is all personal opinion. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, I agree with about 95% of what you're saying, especially the point about if you're an atheist, you shouldn't hide behind the word Jew just because you're uncomfortable with the word atheist. But having said that, you know, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. My father raised me as an atheist. He came from some Russian, maybe Polish background, so I have had no problem just ethnically, and I've clarified this for people. If they ask me what religion I am, I never say Jewish. If they ask me, you know, what's your heritage, your ethnicity, I say I'm half Puerto Rican and I'm half Jewish.
Yeah.
I've had no issue with that. I'm not invested in Judaism. You know, I don't even belong to the secular Jewish circle because I don't feel like I have to observe high holidays even in some secular way. I could make up my own neurotic rituals without having to go through all the Jewish ones. So I would only question your sense that the definition of religion and culture have to be mutually exclusive. I think if you're raised, you know, even if your family goes back generations and then you reject religion, you know, there is an Amish culture, even if you leave it, I would say. I just disagree with that point, that I think there is some important intersection of religion and culture that there's no bright line, and therefore a people who self-define as Jewish, I think that's just as valid as sticking to some, you know, objective anthropological one.
And I appreciate that. And now, and going back to this person, well, let's see if I can get there real quick. This person. Now, you're talking about where the dividing line is between religion and culture, and this is a good picture to define it, okay? This is Islam poisoning a culture into killing this innocent person. Now, a whole bunch of Muslims in this world would say that's not Islam, but this is being done in the name of Islam by a culture that's been poisoned by the religion. So I'm not saying that they're mutually exclusive. I'm saying that Judaism does not fit the definition of culture because there are Jews outside of that culture who are still Jews. That's why it's not a culture, because there are Jews outside of that culture who don't share anything of what we determine to be Jewish culture, but they're still Jews. That makes Judaism not a culture. Now, when you say to somebody, well, I'm half Puerto Rican and I'm half Jewish, that kind of doesn't make sense. Because Jewishness is not a race, right? It's not a nationality. But there is that soft side that you were talking about that people understand. That people kind of understand what half Jewish means. So I see where you're going with that. I'm saying that it's a misnomer. Even though people understand it, it's a misnomer because Judaism isn't a race or a nationality. So it's like saying you're half Italian, half Buddhist.
Okay. It's me again.
Hi, you again.
Yiddish was my first language, and I'm ethnically Jewish, and I consider it. I can't say I'm Yiddish, or maybe I would. I don't know if the American public would understand that. And so I've been an atheist for many years. It was a gradual thing, but I still identify with being Yiddishkeit. And I'm sure that many people see you as Jewish, even though you're an atheist, because of your name. And my name is Esther, and I used to be ashamed of it, and but now I kind of accept it because it was so Jewish. But I am ethnically Jewish. If you ask an Italian person, what are you, they'll say, I'm Italian. And so I guess that many Jews feel that Judaism was Jews without a country, so it was a nation. And so maybe I feel that's my nationality.
And that's great. I love that. I love that concept. The reason that it doesn't work is because there's a lot of Jews who don't have that. You're broadening your, what I assume to be Ashkenazic Jewish background, to be Jewish.
Yeah, Yiddish.
And that's the wrong word. That's my point.
Yeah,
okay?
I could say, should I say I'm Yiddish? Yiddish.
And actually that would make more sense.
Yeah, because that was my first language, yes.
Because that whole concept of the Ashkenazi tribe of Judaism coming through and a lot of, I'll just say it, inbreeding, and a lot of all that coming down and having all Jews pretty much look like us. But that's not all Jews. Then we extrapolate that to be Jews, but that's not the right word.
And I also think that many people, it doesn't matter that you say you're an atheist, will still call you a Jew.
Yes. Yes, that's also true, and they'd be wrong.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi. I'm still alive, no holes yet.
I mean, I gotta admit, I liked what you said this morning, but you really lost me this afternoon.
That's fine.
I'm an active Reformed Jew. I sing in my choir, but I'm also an atheist, and I'm proud of it.
Okay.
And I just find it interesting how you're telling myself that, how I have to define myself, and I'm wrong for how I define myself. But I do have a question. I'm wondering if you've looked at some of the logical fallacies in your presentation. You paint all Jews with a broad brush, like you do matrilineal descent. Reformed Judaism doesn't have matrilineal descent. You know that. You talk about, let me finish. You talk about, we have stoning in the Bible. Reformed Judaism does not take the Bible literally. You know that. We don't stone people. We don't wear those same clothes. So you're painting Judaism with a broad brush in order to make your points. It's kind of scary.
I'm making generalizations.
Let me finish. I'm sorry. You got your chance. And the other thing is that you ended by saying honesty is a mitzvah, but where the heck do you think mitzvahs come from? So, appreciate it.
Okay, I don't quite understand the question. There was no real question in that, so.
Logical fallacy. Have you looked at the logical fallacy and you're painting things as the broad brush? That's my question.
That's not a logical fallacy. It's making generalizations to a general audience about a general issue. I didn't say all Jews did that. I say Judaism has this. Judaism does. Now, Reformed Jews can sit on their hands and say, well, we don't believe in stoning people to death, and that's great. But the Bible still says that people like us, people like you, should be stoned to death. And what I was saying was that Judaism need not be preserved just because we brought it up. We have to recognize that Judaism has barbarism no less than Islam and Christianity. In fact, Commandment 1 of Judaism, Commandment 1 says we got to die. So you can say, well, I don't believe that, and that's great. I'm not saying that you can't disagree with the religion, but that's not a logical fallacy. I'm going to disagree with you on that.
It is, because you're saying the Bible says this, the Bible says that, but we don't take the Bible literally in Reformed Judaism, and you know that.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's no reason to protect a religion like that.
Well, that's why we're not Orthodox.
Okay, thank you.
I want to say two different things. One is that I absolutely agree with you that
Can we stop there?
that the culture of people who call themselves Jews all over the world, the cultures are quite different, knowing people who are Sephardic and people who are in South America who are not Ashkenazi, but who are, there's an enormous variety.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, what I do for my own logical consistency, my own intellectual comfort, is I distinguish between Judaism and being a Jew. And I don't subscribe to Judaism, but I am a Jew.
What's a Jew?
And okay. And for me, a Jew is not the same as what my cousin who grew up in Greece is. For me, it's the narrow definition that you used, even narrower. That is, it is a descendant of Ashkenazis. I am a second-generation American descendant because that's the culture that I identify with and resonate with, and that's what I claim when I mean Jew. I don't mean Judaism, I mean Jew. I mean the food, I mean the music, I mean the Yiddishkeit, I mean all kinds of things that have enormous significance to me emotionally. Okay, that's one area.
Can I respond to that before you go into the next
because then
one?
I wanted another area.
Okay, that's fine,
Okay.
and that's great. I love what you're saying, okay? You and I are on the completely the
I
same...
just used Jew as a shorthand for second-generation American Ashkenazi.
You're allowing Judaism to take credit for what it's not taking credit for by
I
using...
understand that. I understand
and you're...
But I say atheist Jew.
Well, that's a start. That's a start. But when you're saying, I mean, you obviously have a real solid handle on what you are, what your ethnicity is, but then to call that Jew because it makes you more comfortable, and really that's why you're doing it, because that's what you were raised to do. I'm going to push some buttons here.
No.
That's what you were indoctrinated into saying?
No, because it includes the bagels and the matzah bray and the kugel and the,
Right,
it includes
but
all
the
that.
other
That's
Jews
the-
don't have that.
That's right.
So
then-
that's not Jews. If you can be a Jew and not have any of that, then calling yourself a Jew because you have that is not logically
Yeah,
consistent.
okay, I can't be a Jew and not have any of that. I don't care about the other. I only want the matzah bray. Forget
Matzah
the
brie is really good.
It's really good. That's right. Okay, but it's the shorthand term, and I just lost that idea. But the second category is
Yes.
that you talk about that the rest of the world is going to, if I say atheist Jew, I remember now, just one second. People say, yeah, but how, you can't be, people have said to me, you can't be an atheist Jew. There's no
Right.
such thing. You have to believe in God. And I say, no, you can be Italian without being Catholic.
Right.
And that's I can be a Jew without believing in God. That was the other little
Except Judaism is not a nationality like Italian is
Italian.
nationality.
I know. It loses
It's
it
wrong.
loses
It's
something
incorrect.
right there. Okay, so now let me get back to okay. And that is that if you're saying that the rest of the world is going to not attend to the niceties and little distinctions that I'm making of second-generation American, blah, blah, blah.
Which you know that's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
And also, the rest of the world is not going to pay attention to the fact that I have renounced Judaism and God, and comes a pogrom, and they're still going to get me. That I can, it's simply not going to, they are going to define me no matter, they being the
They,
rest
them,
of
those bad guys.
The anti-Semites, they're still going to define me, no matter how I define myself. And what that leads me to is that in addition to another slide that you may try to negate, but I don't think you can negate
Go for it. Give it to me.
And that is that Jew, not Judaism, Jew is a social political category. And it's not me who adopts that. It's the rest of the world that designates Jew in some icky way as a social political category. Now I'm finally done.
Thank you. I'll consider that. Thank you for that comment. Those were really great comments. Thank you.
Well, you said that there was nothing that Jews have in common all over the world. Look closer.
Yeah.
There's nothing that Jews have in common all over the world, but there's one thing that I think needs to be mentioned, and that is values. Now, you probably won't agree with that, but when I see that, let's say 27% of Nobel Prize winners are Jewish, they're not all American, they're from all over the world, they're Jewish. I would say values of education, values of various other values, are achievement, etc. I would say that is many values are common to Jews all over the world.
So if a person is born into Judaism and doesn't share any of those values at all, actively goes against all of those values, is he Jewish?
I wouldn't say that he probably goes against them. I would say that he probably wishes he could be more interested in education.
No, give it to me. You know where I'm going. If you're saying that all Jews have this in common, I'm going to hit you back by saying if somebody hates all those values, are they Jews?
I think it's a mistake, and this is all I'll say. I think it's a mistake to say every single person. I think you have to go with how the majority feel.
You didn't answer my question. You said that all Jews have something else in common, and that is values. I'm saying, no, that's bull. Because we're trying to, that's what Judaism does. It tries to include everything. What is it doing? It takes credit for the morals, right? It takes credit for the morality. You're good because of Judaism. You just fell right into that trap. And then when I said, well, if somebody doesn't like those values, are they still Jewish? According to your logic, you would have to say no. The reason that you're not saying no is because it's not true, because you are still sticking to the concept of once a Jew, always a Jew. Born to Jews, you're a Jew. That's the poison in your mind. And it was the poison in my mind too. That's where I'm going.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. And my second question is, with your thinking the way you do and your wife thinking the way she does, how in the world do you raise that child?
Well, that's an excellent question. Well, first of all, I will tell you that this actual presentation was edited by my wife. And she has been very instrumental in my coming to this conclusion. And not from the fact that she was trying to convince me, but the fact that she was trying to convince me that I was wrong and failed to do so. And coming from her perspective, I hold a lot of weight to that, because as a former Baal Tshuva, she learned about Judaism with interest. She was into it. She dove into it and absorbed it all, and she looked at this first, and she has been convinced by my reasoning that Judaism is a religion and a religion only. And how are we raising our daughter? Well, rule one for raising a daughter in a mixed marriage is, and that's what it is. It is definitely a mixed marriage. When you get a theist-atheist relationship, it doesn't matter if I was raised a Jew. It's a mixed marriage. And you have to have your rules set forth in advance. And what were our rules? Well, our rules were, and this was a conversation that we had when we were engaged. She wanted all of our children to have a Jewish education. I did not. Our compromise was that they could have a Jewish education, providing that the daughter wasn't taught anything bad about Dad the atheist. I'm not going to pay any money for somebody to tell my daughter that I'm bad. Judaism really doesn't do that, so it really wasn't too big of an issue. But what we settled on was workman's circle, secular Jews. And my daughter went to a Parrott school, and she learned all about what we considered to be Jewish, ethnic, racial, culture stuff. Our parents believed in a God that did this, our parents believed in a God that did that. Almost, very likely completely analogous to what this circle is. And that worked out pretty well. My daughter decided at the age of 11 she decided at the age of 6 to start using the word atheist. She decided at the age of 11 that she didn't want a bat mitzvah, and that was the end of that. So how did it work? It works well. It works because we communicate openly, and that neither of us is stuck in a rut. I'm actually quite proud of myself for giving this presentation, because it represents a substantial change in what I used to think. And I view that change as growth. And I'm very grateful to my wife, the Jew, the real Jew, for helping me attain that. I hope that answers your question. Yes?
Hi.
Hi.
You had me thinking about a few different things here. I'm wondering if part of being Jewish is not being Christian, and of course in this country there's a lot of Christianity taking over a lot of things, or trying to. In other parts of the world, being Jewish is that you're not a Muslim. So it's kind of like, okay, you have that identity because you don't want to be associated with those other people. When I lived in Georgia, I would kind of put my little menorah from college on my desk because it pissed them off. I didn't have it at the time, which I do now. I didn't have other atheistic things to put up. So you kind of mentioned a couple times that it's a little bit easier to say, okay, I'm a Jew rather than I'm an atheist. But I wonder if it starts to turn, because I think in reality, we probably already have more people that have no religion than there are Jews in this country. When it starts the tide starts to turn, these people now that are saying, okay, I'm Jewish because I don't want to be associated with these like rabid Christians, maybe then it'll be easier to say I'm an atheist. You don't have to say you're a Jew anymore.
Right. That's the point. Yeah. And hopefully we'll get to that soon. That's my point, that people are using the word Jew, atheists are using the word Jew because it's easy. Because it makes your life a lot easier to say you're a Jew than it is to say you're an atheist. It's still the wrong thing to say. And it's the wrong thing to say because of all the factors that you just mentioned, including the fact that you can be not a Christian or a Muslim and be an atheist. Hello.
Hello.
Should I get a chair? Go ahead.
You had about 1 hour to speak. I don't have an hour here. I know that to begin with. If I took your entire presentation, and had I had an hour, I could have dissected and answered each one of your points.
Okay.
However, I don't have this time, so I will not do it. I would say generally that you did lots of generalizations, so let me make some generalization about what you said. You made generalizations here.
Yeah.
You took fringe cases. If somebody is not like this, does it mean that it's not that? That logically doesn't make too much sense to me.
All right, let's talk about that for a second. If I say that somebody doesn't fit a definition,
Right.
then they're not a member of that group. That's
Right.
not logically fallacious. That's completely logical.
I'll give you an example
Okay.
that you may agree. If I say, for instance, that there is a gun culture in America, Americans worship guns. I do not worship, you do not, or somebody else.
Right.
Does it mean that they are not Americans? This is the thing, it's something, an argument that you used again and again.
No,
and
it's
again.
not. No, it's
Yes.
not. I said that if you have a culture, if you say Judaism is a culture, but you have people who are Jews who aren't a part of that culture, then Judaism isn't a culture. If you say Judaism is a nationality, but you have Jews who are not from that area of the world, then Judaism is not a nationality. This is a very standard, very simple definition. I'm not making generalizations. I'm making very specific definitions with very specific words.
You took many fringe cases to show that it doesn't
Fringe.
fit.
I'm sorry. A word, please. Fringe.
Fringe.
Fringe. Okay.
Yes. To show, I don't have the time to go, and I don't remember, I didn't write down notes when you were talking. But you did it again and again and again, and I'm not the only one who have noticed it here.
Okay.
By the way.
I appreciate that.
Like you, I also became an atheist, consciously an atheist when I was 6, and I knew it. All my life I knew it. I didn't have to fight anything. I grew up in an atheist environment, totally secular. My father was a rabbi when he was 16. He was sort of like brilliant, but he never served as a rabbi because he lost his faith at that age.
Wow.
However, he remained Jewish, and he went from Russia to the land of Palestine at that time to create a place for Jews who were discriminated against, not in the United States. The entire world is not the United States. United States is just a small portion of the world.
Yeah.
And I was born in a different place. I grew up in a different environment. We have in common the age 6. Other than that, our background is different.
I think we have a lot in common.
Your personal experience is not necessary. I grew up among Jews, and
I'm
like
not
you
speaking
have-
about experience. I'm using definitions of words. I'm using specific definitions.
That's right, and definitions are in man-made definitions. They are not.
Where else are they gonna
didn't
come
from? The
from?
sky. You made. Exactly. So what I'm saying is that this is not gravity or or science or anything
Correct.
like this. This is your personal experience and your personal place that you found yourself in. Many of us didn't find themselves in there. I will just end up in one sentence, okay? When my grandparents were sent to the gas chambers, nobody asked them what they believed in.
That's right.
Nobody checked their race. Nobody checked their culture, what food or what dress they were sent there. There was a tag on their forehead that they were Jewish or Jews or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
And if Hitler is not standing here, thanks God. And if I ever will deny that I'm Jewish, will be to avoid going to the gas chamber. Outside of this, I feel that if I deny my Judaism, or not my Judaism, or Jewishness, or Jewness, I don't know how to call it exactly.
Yeah.
We need definitions.
Right.
If I deny it, I yield to the bigots. And I don't want to do that.
Thank you. That's great. And I appreciate what you said. I really do appreciate what you said. But what you also said in saying that was that you're yielding to the bigots to allow them to make you define yourself. That the reason that you're defining yourself as Jews, as a Jew, is because of the Nazis. That's not the reason.
Not only the Nazis.
Well,
Anti-Semites,
wherever. The next pogrom. Whatever.
On my blog.
Of course. Well, let me.
Anti-Jews. So what would I say to them? I'm not Jewish.
You're not Jewish. You're not Jewish. They'll call you a race. Hitler said that Judaism was a race, and everybody related to anybody Jewish was a Jew. And everybody went to the gas chamber. He was wrong.
Go ahead.
I have a quick question, but I'm going to answer a couple of the things that people have said. I'm a social activist, therefore, even though I am not gay, I stand up for gay people. I'm not African American, therefore, if I'm in a group and someone makes a disparaging comment, I stand up for that. So that might be one way that people can address that. My question for you, David, if it's not too personal, is were your parents around when you were coming through some of this, as I am and my parents are? And if you did, how did you handle that? Or do you have any suggestions for other people whose parents are deeply ingrained and how they would handle explaining this to them?
Excellent question. Thank you. So, yeah, my parents lived until just recently when they both died. My father came out to me as an atheist when I was 30. I wish he had done it when I was much, much younger and when I was fighting against my mother to not have a bar mitzvah. My mother was Jewish, a theistic Reformed Jew. And my father really didn't say anything, but I'll tell you about my mother. My mother was the little Jewish girl in public school who was forced to pray to Jesus every day because that's what the school did, until Madeleine Murray O'Hair, the most hated woman in America, stopped that from happening. And when I came out as an atheist, My mother didn't care. Like I said, I've never been closeted, called myself, I said I don't believe in God ever since I was 6 years old. And I used the word atheist as soon as I found out what the word meant. And I was bar mitzvahed as an atheist. I'll tell you that story if you'd like to hear it. I was bar mitzvahed and I was confirmed, and that's an even better story. But when it came down to it, my mother saw my activism as helping Jews. My mother saw the value of the separation of church and state, and she saw what I did as helping Jews and helping Muslims and everyone else, and even Christians. In fact, she gave me this little speech before she died, telling me how much I was helping everyone else. So I don't think when we're talking about Jewish parents, of course there's no concept of hell, there's no concept of soul saving. There is the concept of guilt. So be prepared for what are you doing to me? But that's Ashkenazic, by the way, it's not actually Jewish. But I don't think you're going to have the same problem in a Jewish household. Traditionally, there I'm going making generalizations again. I don't think you're going to see the same problems in a Jewish household as you would see in a Christian household, because I think you're not going to get the urgency of the need to save a soul, and you're going to be able to make the separation of church and state argument to them. And the separation of church and state argument that says, hey, I'm an atheist and I work with atheists who strive for nothing more than for atheists and Christians and Muslims and Jews to be equal. That will fly, or at least it will have a better chance of flying.
Hi, I'm Marshall. I'm Susan's husband. I'm also the president of the Secular Humanist Jewish Circle. And I wanted to make the word heritage. We chose the name Secular Humanist Jewish Circle because we saw four parts. The secular and humanist, which to me, and I struggle with it all the time, is that those are the important parts of secular humanist to our organization. The circle, the sense of a community, of some of the Jews in this Tucson community. We could have put Tucson in the definition also. I come from a background where I was a social worker working with people with severe mental illness, and the concept of person first rather than diagnosis was very important. And I think that's important in our concept here, that how we define ourselves is we're not, people are not schizophrenics. There are people who have schizophrenia or have a mental illness. And I think that what the difference to me, if I would define the Jewish part as not culture, maybe the word is wrong, is we have a heritage. That's some of it, that we have that is based, I'm an atheist, but I come from a certain heritage, and we struggle with it as an organization all the time, whether the speakers that we invite, whether the questions that we question. I really am grateful for you to come. I agree with much of what you're saying. It's that sense of creating our own community and the right in a democracy to define yourself as a person and to include parts of your heritage in the group that you belong to. And I welcome people to join and to struggle with us on that because, I'm an atheist. And the Jewish culture part is, for me, as different from some of my colleagues on the board,
right,
is very low down. But I think we struggle with it, and I don't think we, as a community and a democracy, and we see it all over the world as we try to build democracies around, that we have the answer, and I don't think we're ready to throw it out yet.
Oh, I'm not suggesting
Okay,
that.
I don't. You're not, but
I'm not suggesting that.
What
What I'm suggesting is just to raise the awareness that what most secular Jews call Judaism is actually location-specific, Ashkenazi-esque descendants. It's not Judaism. And when we call it Jewishness, we are allowing the religion of Judaism to take credit where it's not due.
I agree. How about the word heritage as a part?
If Judaism is a heritage, right, but if Judaism was a heritage, all Jews would have that heritage. Right.
Circle community, maybe not.
See, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's not true.
No, not all Jews, but this circle.
We're Ashkenazim. And that may be true, and that may even be a stretch. But what it is that unites us from a cultural standpoint is not Judaism, it's location-specific and dependent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a short statement and then a question. First of all, I want to thank you immensely for coming here today. I find you to be a totally brilliant man.
Thank you.
You've been saying exactly the same things I've been thinking about for years.
Then might I also compliment you on your stunning intellect as well.
Thank you. And finally, my question, it's now approximately 3 o'clock. What time do you think God will be passing out the potato chips?
I called him, and he said he was going to be late. He got stuck in traffic.
I guess my phone wasn't working.
Oh.
I'm the Ashkenazi Spanish Jew, or Spanish Jewish atheist from
There you go,
New York.
Ashkenazi Spanish Jew. That's right. Well, not the Jew part, unless you're a Jew.
Only culturally, I would say, again, even though...
So you're an Ashkenazi Spanish guy.
You could say that too. But my question is about the state of Israel, because I had this very similar discussion with some guy on a cable show years ago who was saying a lot of valid points about the abuse of Palestinians in Israel, and even Sephardim are subject to discrimination by the Ashkenazim in Israel. That's an unfortunate reality. But he went a step further than I personally would go, maybe than a lot of us in this room would go. He made the same points you're making, that the Jews really aren't a people. They are really, Jewishness is only really a religion, and therefore there really is no justifiable basis for the state of Israel to exist in the first place. Even if they cleaned up their act and gave Palestinians and Arabs and Sephardim equal rights, there would be no basis for the state of Israel except as a theocracy. So my question is, if we take your position that Judaism ultimately, fundamentally, eternally is only a religion, then are we not, if we support Israel, are we not then supporting a theocracy, which we as atheists should be morally repugnant of doing?
Isn't that an awesome question? Isn't that an awesome question? Yeah. Look, there's some serious truth to that, okay? Now, first of all, we have to say, when we go to the point of, is there a justification for the existence of Israel, there's no justification for the existence of any country, okay? It's all, Israel exists for the same reason the United States exists, money and power, okay? That's why it exists. That's why countries live and die. It's about money and power. There's nothing altruistic in the state, in the formation of any country, and Israel included. Is there a religious basis for the existence of the country? No. Should we support theocratic rule? I think as a country, speaking as an atheist, we should support any country that benefits America by supporting it. And that's why we should be doing it. And that's where we have to go, folks. That's why we have to go. It's important that in the middle of the Middle East, that America has a puppet, that America has a place where we can land our planes all the time, okay? I do not care at all if that's a Jewish country, or a country with a Jewish state, or anything else. If it's a Jewish theocracy, no, absolutely not. I do not support a Jewish theocracy unless it benefits America, and then we have to do it. But from a different standpoint, from any other standpoint, No, there's no reason to support a Jewish theocracy just because my ancestors were Jewish. That's hypocritical. I'm a nice person. I want everybody treated fairly. And if Israel can't support its citizens fairly, I do not support it.
Hi, my name is Judy, and I have two different points.
Okay.
For those of you who know me know that I'm a relatively concrete person, and I haven't done much study on some of these topics. My first comment has to do with culture, which a number of people have commented on. I think we would all recognize that there are Jews from different cultures. Ashkenazi, Sephardic, African countries, Russia, China, India, wherever. I think that I'm finding that you're getting into trouble, or I'm feeling trouble with your use of the definition of culture, because you only select one at a time. And
One what?
One part of the world, one location. And you say, okay, if you're Sephardic, but we're defining it in terms of the traditions of, and the food and the music and the practices of the Ashkenazi, then therefore it doesn't work. I'm suggesting grappling with trying to broaden the definition and inclusion of multiple locations as a source of the culture, rather than selecting just one at a time, which what I gather from your presentation, you'd say, well, in the United States, it's by and large Ashkenazi, and this is the culture that is represented, and does that mean that makes you a Jew? Or people who are not Ashkenazi are not Jews? So I'm having...
No, I'm sorry, I wasn't obviously clear. What I'm saying is that if Judaism is a culture, okay? If you're going to say that Judaism is a culture, you're going to define it in terms of that culture, okay? And that means if you can then say, well, if somebody outside that culture, are they Jews? Okay? And if your answer is yes, then your definition is flawed. If you're saying Judaism is the culture, and you can't get and you've got somebody outside that culture that is still Jewish, then your definition is flawed. And you're mentioning broadening of the terms, and that's exactly what you're doing.
Right.
Well, it's exactly not you, what people are doing. They're saying, okay, my section of Judaism is Judaism, is all there is. Okay, they're extrapolating it. It's not. The fact that so many of us come from, we have in our society, in our culture, the bagels and the matzah brai and the hora. If we say that's Jewish, we're being incorrect, because there are people that don't have that are also Jewish.
Okay, I'm suggesting, and I don't have the answer or know how to do it, but I'm suggesting adding to the definition or the inclusiveness that there are peoples from other parts of the world with other traditions that are labeled Jewish that become part of a broader definition on culture.
Linked by what?
Well, I told you I didn't have it all thought through.
No, this is my point. This is exactly my point. This is perfect. This is exactly my point. The one thing that links Jews together across many subcultures, the one thing that links all Jews together across subcultures is the religion.
That's my point, too. I'm glad you brought that up.
That makes Judaism a religion and a religion only.
Okay, I mean, I haven't thought this through, but I'm sharing just sort of partial thoughts. Okay. My note here is, and we haven't grappled with this, religion without God. Oh, but,
Okay.
if we're talking about, atheist, a Jewish atheist is an oxymoron, then, if you remove the God...
Bonnie Cousins just sat up from nowhere.
I'm just sharing a couple of thoughts.
All right, so I'm gonna, and let me reflect on that, okay? In my job, I deal with, I'm a board member of the Secular Coalition for America. We've got 15, 17 members, and among those people include the Secular Coalition for, the Society for Humanistic Judaism, the Society of Ethical Culture, the HUs, the Humanistic Unitarians, okay? And they call themselves non-theistic religions. No. No. Again, we have to get to the definition of a word here, okay? The word religion has basically two definitions. One definition is a people united by a belief in a supernatural being, and another definition is people united by a common thing, a common passionate belief. Now, by that second definition, football is a religion, baseball is a religion, and I don't think that's a religion. I just think that's not a religion, and I think what we're seeing when we look at the concept of non-theistic religions, and like I said, I'm not trying to hit my friends, my allies, but when we're talking about people trying to make religion non-theistic, what we're seeing is that indoctrination that we've had since children that we can't be anti-religious. And they don't want to be anti-religious because they think it's bad to be anti-religious, so they make a religion that's non-theistic. It doesn't sit well with me. I'm not claiming to have the be-all and end-all authority on that, but no, I don't agree with the concept of a non-theistic religion. I think what that is a community bound by ethics, which is great. I think people can call themselves whatever they want. I can call myself a professional football player if I want. Don't make it true. A lot of people say that there are non-theistic religions. A lot of my friends are members and or leaders of non-theistic religious institutions, and I disagree with them. It's not true. That's not a thing, as my daughter would say.
I just want to point out that you didn't become an atheist at 6 years old. You were born an atheist, as we all were.
Right. Right. And then I realized I was an atheist at about 6.
You acknowledged it publicly. And also, you used a word about your wife that I don't know when you said she was...
Balt Shuva. Yeah. Balt Shuva. It's the Jewish version of a born-again Jew. She came out... I'm sorry, I should have used the term. I should have defined the term. Balt Shuva, Baal Teshuva, is a term meaning you went in not religious and you came out Orthodox. You returned. Notice, it's a return, right? Baal Teshuva is a return because they can't let you not be a religious person. They can't let you not be a Jew because, of course, you're born a Jew because you were born to a Jewish mother, which is crap. Go ahead.
Hi,
There is a reason for choosing the matrilineal line.
Yeah, what's that? Please, what's that?
You know who
because of rape, because the armies into antiquity that conquered came into the villages before there were shtetls and raped all the women. The only way they could justify any kind of lineage was by the mother.
Okay, that's great. That I didn't know, but that's still a decision. Whether it's a rational decision or not, it's still a decision.
You were saying there was no reason for it.
Okay, that's great. That's great. I did think it was arbitrary, and now you're teaching me. That's great, and thank you. It doesn't change where I'm going with it, but I do appreciate the education.
Hi, my name's Kent. I'm part of the Secular Humanist Jewish Circle. I'm not a theist, and I'm not an atheist.
If you're not a theist, you are an atheist.
Well, this is something very interesting about the discussion today. It has to do with the extent to which we as humans are strictly rational as opposed to more complex. That is to say that part of being human is being irrational, having subconscious aspects to our personality. So that, in a sense, my reality is different from your reality. And we each, as in the audience, we each have our own reality. Therefore, we each have our own sense, ultimately, of what each of these words mean. Even if we read the same thing in the dictionary, because we have different life experiences, we're going to interpret those words differently.
I agree.
And so when you say, if you were to say, I, David, believe this, or my thought on this is that, then I'm very comfortable hearing how you see reality, how you experience reality. But when you tell me how I should experience reality with an absolute statement of some sort, then I'm very uncomfortable because I don't feel you're respecting all of me. That is, the part of me that isn't necessarily just rational.
Wow, that's great. Thank you. I love that. I think I'm not here to tell you the definition from on high. I think everything that I'm doing here is about my personal journey. That's what this is. And I'm making the argument that I'm right and you're wrong if you disagree. That's what I'm here to do. And if I say, 1 + 1 = 2, you're going to have to tell me why I'm wrong. So saying that we have different backgrounds and saying that we have different versions, different realities, is not a substitute for coming back to me and telling me that I'm wrong and why. Having said that, I totally understand that it makes you feel uncomfortable to hear me come and say that you're wrong, but you're still wrong. And yes, when I'm not. But you're being disrespectful. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm being honest. I'm being forthright, and I'm telling you what I think. Oh, and I'm not saying you're not. And I thank you for being honest. And I thank you for being honest. There's no disrespect intended here. What I'm saying is that the concept of Jewish atheism, secular Judaism, that the concept that Judaism is anything more than the definitions that we as a society, that anything more than the religion, according to the definitions that we as a society have, is wrong. That there is nothing more. And that we look for reasons to make excuses. We look for reasons to make Judaism bigger than it is, just like the Christians and the Muslims, just like the Hindus and the Buddhists. They all do it. But nobody is looking at the people who are doing it as Jews and calling them on it. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to raise the awareness of the issue, get some discussion going on. This is not a declaration, this is the way it is. But it is the declaration of this is the way it is as I see it.
You want to... I'm Jewish, and I agree with the last gentleman who spoke. I'm very uncomfortable with what you're saying. Trying to make people generally conform to your beliefs. For example, one of your goals, you believe that all religion should be of one mind, of one character. Muslims and so forth and so on.
I'm sorry?
Didn't you mention that Muslims and Americans and so forth and so on? Could you clarify that should be one thought process or have certain ethics?
I didn't say anything like that.
But
what did you hear me talking about? I'll clarify.
But that couldn't be done. There are different concepts or beliefs in Judaism. There's the Talmud and the specific, assertions.
But you can have Judaism without the Talmud. If you can have Judaism without the Talmud, then the Talmud isn't even part of Judaism.
Well, Lastly, the gentleman said I should be brief, but this requires more consideration of your concepts. Because the majority of people, of course, in the country are religious, be it Protestant, Lutheran, Catholic, and so forth and so on. In terms of separation of church and state, you believe that. Maybe the American Civil Liberties Union believes that also. In fact, they're pushing for same-sex marriage, but trying to, in the process, violate, religious beliefs the majority of Americans have.
That's because religious beliefs come second to other people's beliefs. A person's religious belief ends where another person's begins.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's thank Dave for a very great presentation.
Thank you.
Very thought-provoking.
Can I say one last thing? I want to say thank you, everybody, for coming. I know this was a difficult one. It was tough for me, but I really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate all the feedback. And I want to thank you all for coming. If you'd like to join American Atheists, we're out back. We're out here on the table. And don't forget to buy I, Atheist, America's Loudest Heathen Fires Back in March. Okay. Oh, and don't forget about our convention, Salt Lake City, Easter weekend.
And also, I want to thank Free Thought Arizona for the collaboration, and Dave. And we also, as I said, we are interested in any of you who might be interested in our organization, and there are snacks to share in the back, so please have some. Thank you all.
Yeah, you can enjoy our group too, so everybody sign up for us too. We'd love to have you on our, okay?
No, and we were an offshoot of Free Thought Arizona. You guys helped us get started, and come and join both and continue the dialogue and the question.